Got a life problem? Call Danny now at 1-800-252-1025 and get yourself some help.
Danny Bonaducci, life coach.
Danny Bonaducci, life coach, is brought to you by Goldberg Jones, Divorce for Men. Call 1-800-DIVORCE. And by the way, we have Rick Jones in studio. He is, yes, yay. Because I was telling him that the lion's share of my calls are domestic problems, whether they're married or whether they're not. People, emotional problems where there's love, there's friction, and that nobody can answer these things like Rick Jones. So I appreciate you coming in, Rick.
Oh, thank you.
All right, let's just go to one, and that would be Michael in Port Orchard. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Pretty good.
Good. You got a question for Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones?
Yeah. I'm about to go for a divorce and all that, and I have one biological child, and then I have a stepchild. And the stepchild wants to live with me. Is that possible to do for a parenting plan and all that?
Well, it's really not. Unfortunately, not being a biological child, the child's not going to be subject to the parenting plan of the divorce. So ultimately, if especially if the father is otherwise out of the picture and the mother, so your current wife, is willing to allow custody, then the avenue you really need to pursue is an adoption.
So adoption would be the best way.
That's right. Now, the one thing I heard in there, though, is an implication that because she wanted to live with you, that was going to be okay. Does her mother agree that she can live with you?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
Yeah, so I heard Rick loud and proud that if you want this to happen, first of all, it's not going to happen in the parenting plan, but you could adopt your stepdaughter, and it sounds like your a soon-to-be ex-wife might be amenable to that. Or will some other written declaration work for him? She might not want to say, hey, you can have her as your daughter now, and I'm giving up my rights, but she can live with you. Is there some binding contract they can step into so she can go live with him?
Well, the key, I get exactly where you're heading with this. The key, though, is that it can't be a binding contract because the courts don't have any authority to enforce that because they don't have authority over this particular child. But certainly what you can do is you can operate without a writing. In other words, there's nothing to stop her if she has, quote, custody, because you can't, of the non-biological child. She can still allow visitation, and that visitation can even be to the extent that she lives with you by permission.
There you go. So it's really it lies in your ex-wife's hands is what I'm getting from this. Thank you very much for the call, Michael. I appreciate it.
It's Danny Bonaducci, life coach, with special guest Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones, 1-800-DIVORCE. If you've got a question for either Danny or Rick Jones, 800-252-1025. This is Jimmy in Stanwood.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, Danny. How you doing?
I'm doing well, buddy. What's up?
Well, I'm glad Rick is on. I hope you'll have an answer for me. Rick, while I was
incarcerated...
Well,
he will. It may just not be the one you want.
While I was incarcerated, my ex-wife divorced me without my knowledge. And now that I've got out, I went down and got copies of the divorce decree. And basically, she lied to the judge and told the judge she had no idea where I was at. And they proceeded without me. And I'm wondering what I can do to go back and make sure I can get my rights.
Sure. Well, what rights are we talking about? What about it is concerning to you?
She got full custody of our children without me getting any parental rights. She got the judge to award her $1,000 a month in child support. And again, I never even knew any of this was going on. She visited me weekly. Her father visited me. And then all of a sudden, I get out of jail, and I'm told I'm divorced.
Okay.
And it was all done behind my back.
How long ago did this happen, Jimmy?
This happened about 3 years ago.
Okay. And how long have you been out?
About 3 years ago.
Okay. So you discovered this 3 years ago, and you're calling me now?
No, I've just now discovered it. When I got out, she said, well, you have to pay me X amount of dollars a month, and you can see your kids anytime you want. And so I've been doing that, and she decided to go on welfare, and now welfare is coming after me.
So the state's coming after you, and she's probably yanking your chain when it comes to seeing the kids.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, certainly there can be an examination of how did this happen. When it comes to addressing some of the financial aspects, there may be the ability to go back and reopen when it comes to assets and liabilities. But your main concern are two things that are always potentially modifiable, which is the custody order, meaning the parenting plan, and the child support order. So whether whether you'd been divorced 3 years ago or not, these are things that can be revisited prospectively. But then where somebody's really going to be able to help you out is if they can look at it retroactively to get rid of some of this back debt that right now the state thinks you owe.
For one thing, just let me ask you this: if this went exactly the way that Jimmy said, and she went on record saying she has no idea where he was, so filed. You have to sign in and out of jail all the time, and she met him every week, he said. Won't that make an effect in some way?
Well, it certainly will, because if she's basically perjured herself and provided either no service, saying she had no idea where he was at, or a proof of service that was a fiction, a total lie, that's a way to go back and reopen. So again, the key for him, though, is he's looking at custody and child support issues going forward. Now, going backwards, and by the way, going forward is modifiable, so that definitely can be addressed. Going backwards is where we need Danny to bring where we need to introduce those facts to try and recover some of that back debt he's presumed to owe right now. What we can't get back is the 3 years of lack of custody.
Right. But, of course, we also can't get back the 3 years that he spent in jail. There's some things you just can't do anything about. Just saying.
All right. The next caller is going to be Erica in Woodinville. You're on with Rick Jones from 1-800-DIVORCE and Danny Bonaducci, life coach.
Hi. I just had a question. On Friday night, I had kind of an altercation happen. I went to a barbecue with my friend. She left. I didn't think that she was intoxicated by any means. I got in the car with her and her boyfriend started going at it with fists. And so they pulled over the car, and we get pulled over, and I had my son in the car. Well, I was the only one sober, so I took the kids, and I called my mom, and we went home. And just yesterday, they called me, and they want to talk to my son alone.
Who's that?
CPS.
Okay.
Yeah, they wanted to talk to my son alone and do a house inspection, and I said that was fine, but I didn't know where my rights lied, or is this legal? Is this I didn't know, because I didn't get I wasn't really involved. They had just let me go, but I don't really know what my rights are.
I got to tell you, that falls a little bit outside of what I normally deal with on a day-to-day basis, being divorce issues. But certainly this is custody. When CPS is involved, there's obviously a concern at any point in time. If things happened exactly as you described, it sounds like the truth will set you free, though.
Right.
So it sounds like you did nothing wrong. In fact, you probably made wise choices along the way. The reality is that you've got a concerned state looking out for children.
Yeah, I was thinking that as you were telling a story, that this is kind of good news, because mostly you hear about CPS when they didn't show up. These guys did their job. Unless there's an actual plaintiff, somebody making a judgment against you, they don't want to take your children. That's the last thing they want. And I think that there's going to be a perfunctory tour of your house. You please tell your story, and that will be the last you hear of them. So I think this is a good news story. Life Coach is brought to you by Goldberg Jones, Divorce for Men. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.